Welcome to the process, guys. We'll be right back. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the process on this Wednesday evening. Welcome, my man Jamid. Welcome back, brother.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on?
We had so much good feedback about you. We had to bring you back on the last show. We had to bring you back. Shout out to my co-host Alessandra out there. Let's get into the show. So, welcome to the process, guys. The process is a sterile processing industry podcast providing education and real-world conversation related to healthcare compliance, regulation, and standards, highlighting industry concerns to raise awareness of standard infection control practices. So, welcome, guys. And today's topic is not necessarily today's topic. We're going to be talking about turnover times, expectations for sterile processing, quotas, and benchmarks. So, where are we going to start? So, I wanted to start with expectations. What's actually expected from our department on a daily basis? And shout out to the viewers. Appreciate you guys coming on. So, what's expected? I'm going to pose that question to you. What's expected from our customers on a daily basis, or even the C-suite?
So, a lot of it, you kind of are given the answer in your intro, right? Because the expectation is perfect trays on time every time, right? That's more of a goal, right? But really an expectation is a partnership, right? Like we understand what they're doing and what they're going through, and we're working to kind of support that mission of that day. Harry coming and hitting hard. Hey, what's going on, Harry?
Hey, what's up, Harry? Yeah, so Harry said if your customer doesn't know what they want or isn't realistic with the expectations, can you provide those expectations? How are we going to do that? Communication, right?
Right. And
education too.
And part of it is, are you actually meeting, right? Because you can help them understand what's possible and what's not possible by meeting. And, I know meeting is a bad word in nowadays because everything has to be done on TikTok in 30 seconds and everything's got to be so quick. And I'm not talking about a long meeting, but just a daily meeting to go over the schedule. And you would be surprised how few departments are doing that.
True.
Shout out to Condre Institute.
Shout out to the Condre Institute. So there are facilities that meet on a daily basis and the expectations are still not clear, right? The realistic expectations are still not clear. So some facilities have one tray expected to 4 cases in a day, right? So the expectation is to still have perfect trace turnover in time. But when you have those added obstacles, they still expect the same thing. So how do you communicate that hey, we can't do this with one tray. We can do it with maybe 2 or 3, but one is kind of, we might get out of here like 9, 10 p.m.
And it's really consistency of message. I it would be hard for me to believe that, because that's one of the goals of meeting every day, right? Like people will meet, but they don't meet consistently. So what it seems like is every time you're coming to make excuses about what happened last week, right? But if you're
Yeah,
meeting every day and you're saying, listen, we don't have enough of these Candre retractors, so we gotta switch these cases around or whatever we have to do. You're saying that on the front end, then to Harry's point, you can start communicating those expectations. Now, you have to be on your game, right? So your game includes I have to develop and say, here's why, right? Because that's the old Fred Flintstone, Homer Simpson time where you could just say, we can't do this. And it's like the customer is like, what do you mean? Or you can say, well, we take in the transportation time 10 minutes, we take in the cleaning time, which is going to be 25 minutes, the time in the washer 45 minutes, the time to prep and pack it, which is going to be 10 minutes, the time in the sterilizer hour and 10 minutes. So when you can put those things together, then it stops saying no, we can't do it. So you have to be on your game about creating those realistic times to turn over a tray, and then looking at everything you had to turn over, because that time might work if that's the only thing you're turning over that day. But we have 10
sure,
different things that you're turning over. Everything can't be first. So that's all about building that case and saying, listen, coming with that data. This tray we had to turn over 78 times this year, and I don't see it on our capital purchase thing. We had to turn this tray over. So what are you doing as far as the data to justify what you're bringing to that table? So, realistically, you may not be able to stop and get it in the middle of the year, but if you're meeting on that consistent basis, and when I say meeting, it's not some formal thing that everybody's in a suit and all that stuff. You just say, all right, hey, we can meet right here at the front desk. Hey, let's go over the schedule for tomorrow. Bang, bang, bang. Oh, we need to turn this over. Oh, okay, they might flip this guy. Those are the little pieces of information that you're sharing between the team that can help kind of drive that expectations.
true, 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 and I agree. And shout outs to Harry. So I read an article by in preparation for the show by Donna Swanson.
Oh yeah, that's
Familiar
a good article. That is a good article. And Eddie
Yeah.
Conklin,
so
I
so
think
she
Eddie Conklin might be on that article too.
Yeah, so she says, depending on the complexity of a particular trade, quick turnaround usually will take 3 to 4 hours. Establishing a time of less than 3 to 4 hours might indicate that unacceptable corners are being cut and the manufacturer's IFUs are not being followed. What do you think about that? Three
That,
to
that
four hours,
that's just a fact. That's just a fact, right? Like
true.
like typically you want to set it at 3 hours and try to beat that as your target.
Hmm.
But if you to Donna's point, if you're turning stuff over in an hour and 15 minutes, you didn't process it
Yeah,
correctly,
true, true.
unless it's a true item. And again, all of that is just a cover up for the real problem, which was called out on a multi society um, um, statement on IUSS. And a lot of times we think about IUSS as if we flash it, if we use some kind of device to turn it over, but it's not meant for instruments to come out of the sterilizer and be used, to not get the proper cool down time and stuff like that. So you have to start thinking about that. Let me see what Dante is saying. Oh yeah, hey, Dante,
He's right. He's
I
correct.
respect him a lot, and Harry is throwing out gems, right? Like we don't know how to approach our customer and establish that customer relationship, and
True.
and so what if they won't meet with you? Well, what if they won't meet with you? What should you do? How should you
Well,
handle it if we're too busy to meet with you? We're not too busy to make a big fuss tomorrow, but we're too
right.
busy right now.
Well, as Dante said, daily huddles are definitely important, or even weekly huddles. You want to make sure you go over the cases for the next day, following day. At my facility, we go over 5 to 7 days at a time. So
That
just to
that's an
plan.
ideal. That's an ideal situation. What I would tell people is you can do this a one-way communication, right? Say that they're too busy to meet with you. Put all this
Hmm.
stuff in an email and say, here's what we see for tomorrow. Bam. Here's we see we have to turn over this tray 2 times. We have to turn this is a frequent turnover tray, put in parentheses, whatever. And then, not going through the whole schedule, but the schedule as it is affected with turnovers, or we have these vendor trays, it's 2 p.m. and they're not in. So that's, just to remind you that that's a violation of our policy, because I don't think anybody's policy is 8 hours before the case.
Right.
So
Right.
you just start calling that stuff out, and then so that you're not trapped like, oh, our customer won't meet with us. That's still not an excuse for you not to do it, because you should be doing this for yourself and your team. And so
True.
then you share that information with your customer slash partner.
True. 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 So one takeaway: meet with your OR or even your scheduling nurse so that they know they'll be able to communicate with the OR that, hey, turnaround times for this 15-minute window is not enough to reprocess that tray for 3 different cases. Or even GI, where you have multiple cases going on, you definitely need time to turn the scopes around. You may not have you may not have a ECR scope. You may not have 5 of those in your facility, so you may need more time to turn those around if you have 3 or 4 cases
That's
throughout the
a
day.
good point, because ERCP scopes,
Yeah,
according to
CP,
the
sorry.
FDA, require enhanced processing. So that means either sterilization or double high level disinfection. So you can't get around that, and that's where you can communicate that to say either we need another ERCP scope, but if
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, you can't go in like, oh, we need to buy $5 million worth of stuff. You got to keep it real. If this is the only time it's happened this year, let's figure out how to make it happen. But if it's something that happens every day or every week or every case, then you need to start documenting that so that you can say, hey, we need to request another ERCP scope because we can't turn this over to do enhanced. And a lot of times SPDs might have this down, and depending on the reporting structure, the scope team may not have this down yet, right? They may come in and they don't typically do like we do a lot of times, is look at the schedule, count the sigmoid scopes. Oh, we only have
Mm-hmm.
this, like, but it's an easy skill to teach if you're doing it on the SPD side, so that everybody in the facility is looking at, here's what tomorrow is. And how much easier does that make it when it happens, when you know it's going to happen? So you
True.
got a ERCP scope that you're going to need to turn over by the end of the day. You can do it, but you already know as soon as that ERCP scope does, okay, I'm gonna have to double
Right.
process it in the AER, whatever. Instead of doing the thing where we react and go, hey, they need that ERCP scope back at 12.
Mm-hmm.
Should have got it here before 9:30. So those are the kind of things that you, as a team and a leader, and you don't have to be an officially appointed leader, but to look at that schedule, look at the vendor trays. Are they in? Are they sterile? See, a lot of times we confuse in with sterile. I want to know, are they in first? Because that's the first issue. And then two, are they sterile? So
Mm.
those are the two things I'm looking for at vendor trays, because I want them to be sterile before my second shift starts. Right? That's
Mm.
my things where it's like,
Hold up, hold up, hold up, hold. Oh, I haven't seen that, and I haven't heard anybody say that. No, I mean we want that, but that being a standard for department is kind of difficult for, especially for those fractures and one-off cases that come every couple times a month or every couple times a year.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
kind of difficult sometimes.
it's going to happen, but you have to set the goal strongly, right? Because one of the biggest things that probably affects our productivity, and we speaking specifically to meeting the expectations of the OR, is this way that we all kind of function as independent contractors. I come in, I do the trays that I want to do. So if we don't have any turnover trays, right, then I'm just going to do what I want to do. But
Hmm.
then it would benefit the customer, your team, to say, oh, we have those trays that got here on time and they're sitting there, and we just go let them sit there till PM's comes, the busiest shift comes in, and they're going to do the work. No, I double check the laws of each state, and there's no law that first shift can't do vendor trays. I know it's I know we relegate that to second and third shift, but if the tray is there and the tray is ready, let's go ahead and get it done.
And that's department culture too. But I think also a strong point is to one point that will definitely help departments is to hello Monique, how are you doing? Is to
Hey, Monique.
make that schedule available to your technicians to actually see the flow of the day, the color, the start and stop times of each case. And also, on another note, it's also good to know your surgeons and their operating times. So a lab call is not a lab call for every surgeon. A lab call may take 2 hours for one surgeon, may take 5 for another surgeon. So you definitely have to know that, especially going over your schedule in your huddles.
So you just got to one of my points that I try to recommend wherever I go. The block time scheduling, right? Mm-hmm. So what is block time scheduling? And for those who didn't know, it may sound redundant if you already know, but every month is distributed among surgeons equally. Like you have this time, you have this time, you have this time. So one of the things that kind of chaps my hide is when we're surprised, oh, tomorrow is a big ortho day. We should have a block schedule right up that's going to tell us tomorrow's an ortho day. So that when you're the leader, when they say, hey, can I be off Friday? Listen, I can't have any more than 2 people off because tomorrow's a big ortho day. And Shannon and Johnny took off already. But really also what it can help you even before the schedule comes out, to your point, is on Monday, we know that this Thursday, the third Thursday, is a heavy ortho day. It may not be that on the second Thursday or the fourth Thursday, but we're already prepared. So it's almost like, to your point, we have to go over these things with our team. Like one of the things that I insist on wherever I go is, can we have an OR schedule in SPD? I need one on the dirty side.
Yes.
I need one. I need a. I need a monitor on the dirty side. I need a monitor on the clean side, and then that's going to help us go along with the day. And then once the schedule posts for tomorrow, the schedule for tomorrow can come over. Because the worst thing that can happen is at 9 p.m. we had a busy day. All those guys been jamming back in decon. All that stuff is through. No cases on the board, but the PM decon people are like,
exactly.
And they're not being lazy necessarily. They don't know if another case is coming down. But if you have a board there, and then when the next day's board starts posting, you can really start saying, we as a group, as a department, are working off of this board. And so it really makes a difference in connecting your team to the patient, and then and your team to what's going on in the operating room.
I agree, brother. I agree. Just even a practice one of my colleagues did at their facility was have their team read the schedule out loud in a huddle format, so they get to know what the case is, what it calls for the next day.
What case equals what trays.
Exactly. So that way, hey, some simple lab callers come. Oh, we need to get this lab caller trace turned around.
Right.
So it's just something simple.
We got a bunch of cameras. We got a bunch of cameras in light court sitting over there, and we got 20 lap colis or lap appies on the spot.
Right. Yeah, so just to have your team understand, hey, this day or this case, even an add-on, some persons may not know what an add-on and what you need for that add-on. Oh, we have 5 add-ons, but what are they? Are they ortho? Are they ENT? What we need? We just know we have a bunch of add-ons. Right. So it could still be a light day with 10 add-ons. You
Right.
know,
It's true.
it could be a heavy day with 3 add-ons, depending on what the case is at.
Or
So
the add-ons might specifically affect your turnover. Like it
true.
doesn't make your day super busy, but back to that tray that we only have two of, that we don't need to turn it over because we got two of them, we got two cases. But now one of the add-on is using that. I agree.
Exactly. You may have a day where, oh well, we have enough for our regular cases, regular scheduled cases, but then you have 3 add-ons you have to be turning around all night.
Right.
Because and
Right.
that's my worst nightmare. I don't like those add-ons with it.
So my kind of policy protocol was what something is on the add-on list, it can't get off the add-on list. When something is on the turnover list, it can't get off the turnover list. That's one of the big mistakes where we go, oh, we needed 4 lap trays. We're good. We turned them all over. Did you? Because we're gonna have an add-on. Then somebody opened the one, and then one of them had a broken lock. So for me, once something gets on that add-on list, it's gonna stay on there till tomorrow morning. Let's keep turning it over.
Right. I agree. That's a valid point. Valid point.
Hey,
So
Arlene.
let's move. Shout out to Arlene tuning in. Appreciate it. And let's move on to turnaround times, since we kind of glossed over it. So turnaround time. So IFUs basically give you a turnaround time for instrument, not for entire tree. So if it says 3 hours for this osteotome, how long should it take for the entire tree, or a Kelly or Alice? So how do we equate that? How do we get to that overall expectation again from our customers? How do we tell them, hey, this has 100 instruments, its turnaround time will be XY?
Right. So that's a good point. But I'm gonna take a step back before we can take 2 steps forward. Turnover really starts in the room, right? Like, I'm experienced. I think they call us old people. So, from my surge tech days when we used to do turnover totally inappropriately. So I'm not one of the good old days was better. We you young whippersnappers. We was doing it all wrong. But one of the things that did happen was we knew that we were a key part of that turnover. How quickly can I get that stuff off the field? How good did I do my point of use care on the field so that it's ready to be turned over, right? Because you can't send a bloody femur fracture tray down and be like, yeah, we need that back up in 3 hours. Not going to take 3 hours. So how does that stuff affect? The other thing is implements, like all these modern things, these cards that are disinfectable, that can go all the way through the disinfection process, that can go to the sterilization process. Because I always, and that's when that communication and meeting every day. I'm back in decon. 5 case carts are back in decon. Nothing is telling me that 4th case cart has something that needs to be turned over. So if it's taking me 30 minutes per case cart for a complex case cart, right? If we're doing it right. So I get to that 4th case cart 2 hours after it was sit down because nothing. So I want a turnover sign on the outside of the case cart and on the actual tray. The other thing that happens accidentally is we'll say turnover. And so the team is turning over all the trays involved in the case. But we only need 1 tray from that.
Right.
Again,
exactly. I know where you're going.
It's got to be that communication. So I say all that to say the time you kind of gave away a good secret to say complex trays should take this long. We used to have our guide was based on 5 instruments or less, right? 5 through 100, and then 100 and over is going to take some extra time, right? Because it's like some smaller accessory trays. We might be able to turn that over a lot quicker than say a whole X-lap tray or something like that.
So what do you say to a customer who says, we don't care about the count, we put everything back in there, just close it, cook it, stand it up?
That goes to that communication of what it takes to do a turnover, right? like all the elements of a turnover because thank you for doing all that stuff. That's great. We still have to soak it according to the manufacturer's instructions for use. It might have an ultrasound time on it, right? If it's a complex trait, I don't care turnover or not. We got to hit that ultrasonic because that's how science works. We're going to cavitate. We're going to break up some stuff that we miss. We're still going to send it through the washer, right? Like there's no tray because if my mom is a patient, I don't want her to get the rush turnover thing that was just hand washed. I want her to get the thing that went through the washer. And so then,
okay, hold up. Short cycle or regular cycle?
So when we talk about short cycles and regular cycles, I always ask, what are we talking about, right? Because is there a cycle that goes below? Because a lot of instruments have IFUs that include one of the things that's happening now is the instruments are having IFUs that include the washer. And so does our short cycle meet the instrument IFUs? If not, I'm not sure what we're doing. So when we're running things through, I'm all for not wasting time in cycles. But also, you can't cut down that thermal rinse. You can't cut down that wash time. So what are you cutting down on these short cycles? And if the tray comes out soaking wet with no dry time, did I save time if I have to get the instrument air to dry the tray off before I put it in the wash in a sterilizer? So those are some of those things. Like when we start creating our own short cycles, I want to see what they are because a lot of times people don't know how long you're creating a short cycle. But then I ask you, how long is the regular cycle? Longer than the short cycle. The regular cycle is 27 minutes. The short cycle is 24 minutes, and you cut down the thermal rinse and the washing time, and you're like, I don't think it was 3 minutes away from being turned away.
Right. Exactly. I like that one. I like that. I like that you said that. So what would you recommend? So this is the hot, but if you don't want to say, you don't have to say. What do you recommend cutting in a short cycle or doing away with in a short cycle?
I don't mind. Listen, I'm spicy. I'm spicy. Don't sue me because I'm not the IFUs. That's one. I always, when I'm looking at cycles. So first of all, there are a bunch of companies that will come out and do a low cycle test on your stuff to see is it meeting the temperatures that it's supposed to meet. So that's one thing that I recommend, and typically that's going to be free. You need to contact your rep. From one of the bigger companies that's involved in education. You buy something from them already right now, and they have a lot of education stuff, and they make probably the best washer test. So if you can find that company, they'll come out and do a washer test for you for free. So start off with that. The part that's not meeting a standard is the dry time. And sometimes you look at the pre-programmed cycle, and they have some exorbitant dry times. I had a cycle that was 13 minutes of dry time. Listen, we don't need that many time. We take that time. Sarah hates medical air on assembly. We should get her on the show to talk about.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Hey Sarah, how you doing?
So, but that's probably the only one that I think you can really tune to me is cutting down the dry cycle, not eliminating it if you have excess in the dry cycle. But a lot of times when I do analysis, it's not, we're doing these cheating cycles. That's not what's holding it up. It's the communication from the room, how quickly it gets down to the room, how we know what stuff needs to be reprocessed, and then how quickly somebody jumps on the tray when it comes out the washer. Because we could do all this magical stuff, but when it comes out the washer, if it sits on the conveyor for 10 minutes, what do we just do? Give it a cheap wash? Give it a not complete wash? So it's really about, did the person on the dirty side say, hey, turn over a tray, go on in and washer 4. So yeah.
There's Dante again with some good knowledge. 5 hour turnaround time for that start. So 5 hours. I don't think they like that, Dante. I don't think they'll like that at all.
What you have to do is see
But
what
yeah,
you
but
do.
setting the realistic expectation is very important. Yeah, just that communication. So if you guys have a turnaround form, which I use, I recommend that the customer put the scheduled case time, if possible, on there, so that you could communicate back. I mean, that's redundant, but you can communicate to them that, hey, this is not acceptable time for us. We can't turn this tray around in that time. So there will be some kind of dialogue or communication. So sometimes you get, hey, ASAP. What does ASAP mean?
What does that mean? How many
So
things do we IUSS that doesn't get used? I was at an organization that almost got cut down because they had such a high IUSS rate, but 40% of the stuff that they were IUSS and everything. But that's neither here nor there. But 40% of the stuff they were IUSS and they weren't using. Well, it's too late after it's IUSS. Once you document it as an IUSS, it doesn't matter if it's used or not. In a sense, that counts against your numbers, and it goes to that point of, does everybody on the team understand what IUSS means, and can you meet the times that you promise? Because if you promise you can get it done in 4 hours or 5 hours, like Dante suggested, then you better beat 5 hours every time. And so if you can do that, you can stop using IUS as a just in case. Like that's one of my frustrations. We did an IUSS or we did a quick turnover or whatever, just in case, and they don't even use it. So you got to start tracking that, because they're not the ones putting in the effort to make that turnover happen. Sometimes they can go a little willy-nilly with the turnover.
yeah, that's why to Dante's point, that the expectation is to be there, that hey, we're going to process this per IFUs or per our standards, and we're going to have it ready in this expected time. But if you want it in lesser time, it may not be possible, or conversation may need to be had that case needs to be pushed back or even canceled for that day.
No, let's not cancel the case. Let's not cancel the case.
You don't want to cancel the case?
A lot of mom and pops had to come from the out of state and all that stuff. Let's not cancel the case, but let's make sure we get it to them.
No, man, sometimes you gotta cancel the case for the patient's sake. You've been waiting since 7. It's now 3 in the afternoon. You have your case is now an add-on. Your instruments are not guaranteed to be ready. I mean, I'd rather do it the next day.
Oh no, man! Let's get that case. The OR side of me is like, let's get that case in. We could do it. We could do it.
So Miss Wynn asks, "What's IUSS?"
IUSS is immediate use steam sterilization. We used to call it flashing back in the day. It's when you take an instrument and take it through the same washing, disinfecting process, but instead of using an extended cycle, you're using a cycle without a dry time or with very little dry time to reduce the sterilization time. So you save time by sterilizing it on a cycle that can run from anywhere from 11 to 13 or 14 minutes, depending on your atmosphere in the country. So that's what IUSS is, when you are able to take a tray. But that 13 minutes is not from the patient room. That 13 minutes, and a lot of times it can be confusing, because I can tell you, back in the day in the OR, sometimes that 13-minute bit from the room, because that instrument would never see SPD. We got the scrub sinks, we got some scrub brushes, we get that thing ready, but that's not the standard. And that wasn't right. That was not right.
So persons do make the mistake of quoting sterilizer times versus turnaround time. So they'll say, the autoclave will take an hour and 10 minutes. So you will have it in an hour and 10 minutes, but they don't factor in the dry time. They don't factor in the cool down time.
Yeah, it should be, you got to make sure the right people are doing that communication with the customer, right? Like, that is a competency. That is an experience-based competency, not you, what you think you can do. Because super tech is going to be like 5 hours. What's Dante talking about? I can go back there and watch it. I can go back and do it. I can do that. And then they're probably right. Super tech can do the whole process in an hour and 45 minutes. But can they do 10 processes the whole day? So, yeah. That's true. That's true. That's true, Sarah. And it happens when you're not having those frank conversations, when you don't have that communication, you don't have the data that goes with it to say, we are not really, it should be an equal partnership. No IUSS should happen without approval from SPD leadership and agreement from the OR. Because it's amazing when you put the OR manager in that mix, how often they go, no, they don't need that.
Right. Oh, you go through all that hustle and bustle. It's like 3:30. You're asking people to stay. Hey, we have this turnarounds, and then you walk around the operating room around 7, and those trays are just sitting there.
Yeah. That is a big demotivator.
Yeah. You're like, we just paid overtime for that. So yeah, I definitely understand. So let me put up Dante has some good write a policy and procedure for your practices. So if that disgruntled surgeon physician comes down or makes that phone call to his buddy he plays golf with, all you have to say is it's in our policies, and you have a little, not that you won't be in trouble, but
so let me pull back the curtain a little bit. Pull back the curtain a little bit. We think that all this stuff is driven by the surgeon. A very small percentage is driven by the surgeon. 97% of that stuff is driven by the OR team, right? So sometimes, occasionally, you have surgeons who are like, no, I need it back. I need it. But mostly it's your OR team that's driving this communication that the surgeon may or may not even be aware of, right? So that, I agree, put it in the policy, because all of the people that work for your facility are subject to that policy, but you can't just put in a policy. You got to come back with the education, the reasons why, and how we can prevent it. Like each one of these things, one of the things that if you want to do is, if you have OR liaisons or you have a supervisor, track your turnovers almost as well as you're tracking your IUSS, right? Because the turnovers are going to tell you what you need more of. And that's really all these different reasons, not enough instrument inventory. So do you have enough instrument inventory to operate? And what do you have to do to make more instrument inventory? So that a lot of it comes down to that.
Yeah, and turnaround is definitely important. Turnaround times is definitely important. I'm trying to segue real quick. So there's another thing you could definitely turn around when it comes to shoes. You could turn around your Cal Zero shoes. So if you purchase a pair of Cal Zeros, you're able to sterilize those. So a shoe, Cal Zeros is a shoe you walk away where you walk away from contamination. We know you spend your entire shift on your feet and need a healthy shoe that can easily be decontaminated. All Cal Zero shoes are designed to keep you moving and can be machine washed and disinfected with bleach. Cal Zero is the type of footwear that meets the changing needs of the medical environment, using an innovative copolymer rubber compound to create a product that is sterilizable, autoclavable, anti-static, and extremely comfortable for people standing long hours. Additionally, Cal Zero Classic can be sterilized using an autoclave at your facility in your sterile processing department, and are uniquely commercial dishwasher safe in a restaurant. In business since 1983, Cal Zero is here to wash away your worries every step of the way. And their mission is to provide comfortable, easy to clean footwear made to treat your feet. So go out, guys, get your Cal Zeros. We also have a coupon code when you get to calzero.com. So when you check out, you get 17.99 off each pair of Cal Zeros. So guys, check it out. All right, back to the show. All right, here's your coupon code, guys. Take it down and go get your shoes. Our processing week is on its way. You want to make sure you get those shoes in before the day or before the week so that you could give to those persons you appreciate within your department. It should be everyone. So get those shoes, guys. You have 12 people, get 12. You have 20, get 20. You have 50, get those. And, let the facility pay for it. I digress. So let's move into quotas, benchmarks. So how do we get those done? So, I do have something here. A buddy of mine in the same circles, a guy called Balch.
I know him a little bit. I know him a little bit.
So there's a guy called Balch, right? Hank Weston. So he has an article on infection outpatient surgery, 10 sterile processing benchmarks. So I'll just list a few. Total cycle times, and unprocessed trays at 7 a.m., missing instruments and incomplete trays, request and delivery times, customer satisfaction times, and that's all I have from the article. So check that out. It's on outpatient surgery. Hank Balch has an article there on sterile processing benchmarks. Check that out. Shout out to Hank and his team. So what do you think are a couple good benchmarks to have within sterile processing?
So that is a trick question. That's a trick question. And I'm going to say that because of this. The benchmarks need to match the perception and the needs of your department, right? So if I'm monitoring on time delivery of case cards, but that's not a problem at my facility, they're like, well, yeah, hell, you got somebody working overnight to do it. What's the big deal? So I think you take that list and try to concentrate on 2 or 3 at a time. You got to meet with your customer and do that hard part where you take either a survey or just ask around the room, what are our biggest problems and which KPIs match that problems? And then you attack those like a dog. And then when you get those fixed, you can move on to the other ones. But all of those are great. It has to match what you're struggling with because you may have built-in advantages, right? Like I just went to a facility where the materials team, where the materials team, they pull all the cases. I was like, what? Man, I wish I could have. I wish I could have the facility where the materials team. That's all they come in. They pull the cases. So it depends on. So of course, there's no problem with the delivery of case cards because that's all they do is pull cases. They don't know a thing about instruments. They just pull them. If they're there, they pull them. If they're not there, so it's just an example of you have to work with your team because all those are good. But I would dare say that trying to track 10 at one time is going to kick your butt. So you want to look at KPIs that address the customer needs. But then on the flip side, what I'm going to tell you is you don't be afraid to have KPIs that monitor your customer opportunities for improvement.
I like that.
We do point of use. This is how we monitor point of use care. We take pictures when it's bad. Now, add into your instrument tracking system. Accept it, not accept it. You can report that every day, right? And so you can start having KPIs, whether it's your external customers, whether it's what are the things that are slowing up your workflow, right? Like, certain clinics, they want to let their self sit on your shelf as a storage place, but then they want to cry or whine when they send in 3 or 4 at a time during your busiest time. No, start doing a KPI of pickup times. Hey, called on Monday, every Monday at 7. That's going to be the cleanest time in the thing. Call them. Hey, your chest tube trays are ready. You're this. If they don't pick it up, auto reminder. So there's, don't be afraid to have KPIs that help you break through some of your challenges that stop you from necessarily processing the instrument as timely as possible.
So, but what you said all sounds good. It sounds, hey, just bum 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 and request this report. But what if you're still working with paper? You know?
So that's kind of my expertise because I always feel so bad for the people who are working on paper, right? I feel like, and I'm gonna try to do it as best as I can. Um, when when they first started electronic medical records, of course, hospitals being frugal were like, we opt out of that, and it took the federal government saying, yeah, nobody can opt out of it. Everybody has to be on electronic medical records. Nobody, and so that's how you got it. So until somebody says everybody has to be on instrument tracking system, not just to make it easier, but I don't know how you could track a tray to the last two users without an instrument tracking system. So again, an instrument tracking system, part of the benefits of the, not the primary purpose, is the ability to report some of this stuff out.
True, true. So, what suggestions do you have for persons? They want to track all that stuff. All they have is a 8.5 by 11
So
sheet of paper. How do I
so
do
you
go about
you
doing that?
you can still track it, right? You can still one of the biggest easiest thing, that point of use treatment by cases, right? So you just have a sheet that says how many cases start off today, how many add-ons, and the only thing you're tracking is the case cards that did not have adequate point of use. So it shouldn't be 55. You should say these are the 8 case cards. Case card number 34, case card number 52, whatever. So there are ways to do it on paper. There's ways to track quality on paper. You can do quality audits on paper. You can do reactive audits and proactive audits.
So, how do you track that paper for Dick and Tam and count case cuts?
You can. The math is so simple that you could the math you could do. It doesn't ever have to leave. It doesn't ever have to leave. Right? You know, like it never. I feel you on that part. The way the sheet is set up, because as you can tell, I've done this before. If they don't have it, the way the sheet never has to leave decon. So we just keep the sheet for the whole week in case there's any questions about them. Then we throw them away, right? Because the sheet is just the name and the number of the case card, and then we have that number of that case card tied to that patient or to that room, right? And then we want the supervisor to go back for any gross things like gross bioburden or like a tray impinging on a light cord, whatever is that part that's just unacceptable. We want to call that out, but we also want to be able to send a report every day on this is how we did.
Mm.
And so, and then when you're tracking on the clean side, it's the same way that you want to transfer all that information to into a spreadsheet that you can kind of track the instrument the information historically, right? Like you can try to keep it as simple as possible. The calculations and what you're measuring, what you're trying to get to is probably simpler to get to than you think it is. Data is just a collection of what happened. So a lot of times we got to have a formula cell. We got to have this. We got to have that. No, we check 10 trays today. 8 of them were terrible. In a month, we're going to check 10 trays, and 10 of them should be good. So that's that's simple. That's simple. A lot of times we make it more difficult than it has to be. Obviously, all of it is easier when you have an instrument tracking system, but you can track with you can grab your KPIs without it. And if you're trying to advocate for a change or get your customer to understand something without the data, you're going to fail.
True. What if you speak really loud and stand up at that
Well,
point?
I can tell
I'm
you
just kidding. I'm just
personally.
kidding with that one. All right.
I can tell you personally that used to be my number one technique. It turned out that doesn't work so well, but but it's really if you to get to your point to what you just said, that data can speak louder than you can ever speak. If you get your
Mhm.
data together, you get your premise. So sometimes what you're going to find is your premise is wrong, and that's okay. That's a part of collected data. Oh, I know what the problem is. The problem is this or that or this or that. Turns out that's not the problem, right? So but you better. It's better to go 100 miles per hour wrong than sit back and wait for the perfect data collection. We'll start doing quality audits once we get an instrument tracking system that's on the budget for 2024. Oh, you don't have to worry about it because you won't be in charge there when they get the instrument tracking system. So you have to figure out alternative ways to accomplish your goals, and we can get it. I can tell you, we can get it because if you have an educator, you have a quality agent. If you have a supervisor, you have a quality agent. If you have a manager, you have a quality agent. As a manager, listen, don't ever try to get into a quality audit contest as a manager with somebody like an educator because they're going to outdo you. But that's not the purpose. That's not the purpose. It's really more important to when you start auditing those trays to get that data, right? And to Sarah's point, make sure you have a purpose for that data. And that's why you have to make
Yeah,
sure you're not doing 10 KPIs.
true.
You're tracking KPIs. What's the purpose of it? Oh,
Right.
what's that? What's the famous one we send the infection? We ran 342 loads. No positive BIs. They go, not even the controls. Well, we don't count those. What other ones did you not count? Well, Denard was running the sterilizer. He don't know what we did, so we didn't count that one. And then we had
Mhm.
one when the steam went out. We didn't count that one. Which ones are you counting? Because I just see 6 straight years. So again, you got to make sure you have a purpose. This kind of mindless reporting of data. We got to stop that. Because harvesting data, even in an instrument tracking system, is going to take some modicum of time. Make that time work for you. What's your purpose? What's the purpose here, right? What's the purpose of this data? If you can't tell me the purpose, I'm like, get that KPI out of here. What are we going to help? And then the most important thing about gathering data is, are you sharing it with the team that's doing it? We're doing all these reports.
Mm.
We send it to admin. We send it to the C-suite. We send it to the director of surgical support. They're like, man, you guys are screwing up. The people on the team are like, we're doing fine. We never heard anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you're collecting data that you're sending to your customers, you better be sharing that same information with your team members. Like,
Definitely.
it's like the sports effect. We got a team out there playing on the field. They don't know the score because nobody is sharing. You sharing all that stuff up the chain or to different departments, and you're not sharing it in your own department. So they're like, we go there to help them do a process improvement. They're like, why are you here? We
Oh, better yet,
we're
the
not doing
manager has an attitude, but no one knows why because he
this.
isn't sharing the data. Or he isn't sharing the data. My
Right,
bad.
right. They just went through and sent the data that looks terrible. But here's the thing: how can they get better if nobody is saying anything to them? How can we do? Well, we said we're going to turn these instruments over in 4 hours, but our data on our quick turnovers average 5 hours. But what do we say along the way, right? How are we sharing that information? So, yeah, don't when you're doing your data preparation to share outside, don't forget to share. And it may not be shared in the same way. You got to develop a simple scorecard so your team can know how they did yesterday, how they doing today, how they doing tomorrow, how they did last month, what's our goals for next month.
Oh man, that's some good info right there. That's some very good info. It's a little clap for that. So being that you shared all this good info, how can people contact you if they want some more information from you on sterile processing, on data management, on turnover rates, on just how to get the department organized and how to get things streamlined?
Well, I could tell you, I have such a passion. If you are still on paper and you don't have a system, please contact me. Please contact me so I can help you figure out. We'll figure out what we need to track and then how we can get it harvested in the easiest way possible. You can follow me on LinkedIn first of all, Facebook, email me. I don't mind you sliding into my DMs as long as it's about sterile processing. So, just say, hey, I had a question about this. We're on paper. I want to, because I'm going to say, well, what is the actual problem? Right. So, yeah, hit me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you can find me. Or tell your chapter, get that Jameed guy here because he's going to give you a great speech and make you have a couple of laughs while you're at it.
The Jameed guy?
Yeah.
You mean the speaker guy?
Yeah, that's me. I'm using third person. I'm going third person like Antonio Brown or Deion Sanders' son did this weekend.
Yeah, get that guy. Get that guy. So anything you want to share with the audience? Thank you guys. Alex, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. Sarah, Dante. Who else we have here? Miss Lyons came in late, but you can still rewind it. Jennifer, thank you for stopping in. We have Miss Jelks, Monique, Arlene, Mr. Harry Mullen, thank you for stopping in. Shout out to the Condre Institute. Check them out, guys. Condre Institute. You can find the link you find them on Facebook, or you can find Condre on LinkedIn. It's Alessandra Nicholson. So check them out.
I have one more thing that I want us as a group to start thinking about, right? So a lot of times when we're looking at Amy ST79, we're thinking about what it says, or occasionally we'll be complaining about what it doesn't say. Either one is good. I want people to start thinking about what needs to be added or changed in ST79. I'm going to crowdsource it, right? Because at Advantage, we are going to have a couple of scholarships for people to join the process so they can sit in on Amy meetings so they can see what it really goes like. So that's one.
Whoa. Let me drop a bomb on that one. And let me get some claps to you guys for doing that.
But even that's not enough. So I want to start the conversation. I want to get the conversation going in our community. What's in ST79 that's crap? We need to get rid of it or whatever. I don't think anything is crap in there, to be honest. I'm selfish because I was a part of it. But I think that as time changes or whatever, as more information comes, there's definitely some things that need to be added or stated explicitly. So I want people to start thinking about that stuff. I want to crowdsource that. I want to represent everybody.
I agree. We definitely need to represent our people. See what different takes there are. That's why I always try and be a little devil's advocate sometimes, because you never know what other avenue you could go and get a better solution for, just to think outside the box a little bit. You may not be going on the right road, but there may be an avenue down there somewhere that will guide you into a solution or something better than what we're currently doing. So shout out and repeat that again. What are you guys doing for the Amy Standards scholarship? I heard say it again. I don't think people know everybody about that.
I think we have 2 or 3 open positions, but we're going to do a scholarship to have people, 2 or 3 people, end users only, be able to sit in on the Amy committee, and they can add their input to us so that we can start making changes that favor end users. But more than that, before we get to that point, I really want to crowdsource. I want people to start critically thinking about ST79 real hard. I want them to say, man, they don't say anything about function testing in there. You don't try to steal mine. They don't say anything about function testing in there. So what are some things that when you went, especially travelers, or if you changed jobs, you went from one place to another one, and you guys were doing this, and you tried to find an Amy. Why aren't you guys doing this? And you went to Amy, and it wasn't there. Let's get it in there. Let's get it in there. Let's start that conversation. Let's crowdsource it. Let's have an industry. So whether or not you can be on an Amy committee or not, we want to get your input as an end user into that next document.
I agree, brother. I like your thinking. You think like me a little bit, or I think like you a little bit. Because we got something in common a little bit. So we'll be heading out, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Love all the comments. I missed a couple comments there. So thank you for the comments, guys. Appreciate it. And we'll just talk about this music a little bit. And we'll see you guys in the next show. Peace.